welcome to episode 6 of the Hook, Riff and Banger podcast. Episode 6, huh? Mm-hmm. Can you believe it?
Yes. I'm glad there's no axes in this episode.
That we know of.
Yes.
There's not. We're fine. We're fine. We passed that. We're all good now. Looking forward to this one, though.
Me too. You're here with Jess.
This is Dan.
And today we're interviewing Bentham said.
Yeah, that's right.
Hello.
Hey, guys.
Tell us who you are and your role in the band.
I'm Stuart. I'm the drummer of Bentham's Head.
I'm Chris. I play rhythm guitar.
Awesome. You've got a debut album that's just come out and show on the 18th at the Workers Club. Congrats on the release. That's cool. Tell us about it, the reception. Tell us about the experience there.
Yeah, so this is our first full release with this project. It's a pretty weird one as well. We've been sort of sitting on this for over a year now.
Yeah,
the whole product's been kind of ready to show people, but we've been kind of just sort of working out how we were going to do this, sort of how we wanted to put it out. And, first time putting out a full album for most of us as well. So sort of learning that process itself, which was pretty fun. Made some mistakes along the way, but hopefully it wasn't
learning experience.
Yeah, but no, it's been really cool as well. Like the feedback we've got since it's come out has been really exciting. It's always a bit scary putting out music to the world that you've sort of put your heart and soul and so much time and even money of your life into, and then being like, fuck, I hope people don't hate this. Yeah.
Get ready to crawl back into your hole.
Yeah.
Sure, it's not been like that, right?
Yeah, I don't think we've had to give up on our dreams quite yet.
Awesome.
So hopefully, unless we
good.
get completely smashed in the necks a little bit with horrible comments, but we haven't had that just yet, so that's good.
Awesome. It's Blood, Salt and Ash. Can you tell us anything about the name, like what that means? What the concept, is there a concept of the album you could...
Yeah, so the name actually comes from a little passage out of Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. I adore that book and have read it to death a few times. It's a very sort of dense read, and that sort of passage comes from a particularly violent scene midway through the book. But the whole album, as I guess, sort of focuses on a few different things, and it's not necessarily the whole album being based on that book or anything, but we've sort of looked to try and incorporate narrative from different books. So each song is tied loosely to a different story, and I think there's sort of overlapping elements across those that tie sort of, I guess, place as being a big sort of theme there. So a lot of the songs are sort of based in really sort of frontier-like locations. So with Blood Meridian, it sort of is a more desert-themed sort of aesthetic. Isle of the Dead looks more at sort of the frontier sort of lifestyle in sort of Tasmania, or as it was Van Diemen's Land at the time when sort of first like colonial settlerism arrived there. So they all kind of like explore those different elements, and that sort of gave us that. I don't know, have I missed something on that?
No? Why don't you tell us about the scene that Blood, Salt and Ash comes from in the book?
True. So, I don't know if you've not read the book
shy.
at all. So it's a pretty hairy book that sort of like...
Don't be shy on this podcast.
Yeah, it sort of like, I guess, follows the overall story, sort of relates to sort of, I guess, it's almost like a meditation on violence and evil in the world, and sort of when the constraints of society are removed and sort of moral code, all that's left is the evil in the world. And it basically follows like this really bloody massacre in a sort of by these really horrific human beings of like American, they're effectively like genocidal scalp hunters, and they're just massacring like Native Americans in a really horrific way. And it's this really, really dark moment of sort of like nihilism within the story, but it's a really good read. I think it can be sort of challenging at times because it is so violent, but it's definitely worth checking out if you haven't read it before. Yeah,
Definitely. Definitely something to look at. Very grim for a Sunday morning, but
yeah. Thanks for
reality.
that.
Sabbath.
comment. Yeah.
I think we're done.
Yeah.
Go home and sleep and
Yeah.
cry now.
This is the end.
Thanks,
Um,
guys. No.
Was there a song that was particularly difficult to record for this album?
I think each one had its own challenges. I think you can probably also chime in on this, but I think Bangala was probably one of the more difficult ones. As that song, I was overseas for half of the process of that, so it was a little bit weird handing over sort of my baby to some of the other guys. I mean, they did a fantastic job with it, but also trying to like share notes.
Yeah.
In different time zones, but you were more in the process of that one than probably I was in the end result.
Well, yeah, because a lot of these ideas, the musical ideas, started with Chris, and then he was away for part of the recording process, and that was an act of trust, shall we say? But very happy with the result.
Yeah, getting voice notes back at like where I was, it was like 3 a.m. trying to listen without waking everyone up, and then being like, I think you should do this.
Yeah, trying not to get thrown out of the hostel.
That's cool. That's exciting.
Non-traditional methods of recording an album?
Yeah.
So quite
Right,
collaborative, I guess. Hey.
Yeah.
That's good.
The idea was to have music recorded before we started playing shows so that we could hit the ground running and be like, boom, here we are, and not be caught out as like a band that plays shows but doesn't have any music, anything to go back to. And
I think that's important when trying to release something or get an audience, get people. It's a challenge, I guess.
You don't want to create fans and then have nothing to give them.
That's fair.
Like
We still
rolling
took
with
a
the
while to get it out.
We did
at the
still
end,
take a while to get it out, but we got some singles out.
We did,
pretty quick.
But I think that, I think a lot of us had played in. I think pretty much everyone except really Connor. He was probably the only person that it was his first band. But most of us have all had that experience where we've sort of been like sitting around in a band that's sort of not really doing anything. You're sort of playing the same songs at gigs with nothing out, and you're just trying to like hustle your friends to come to things all the time, and you're like, oh, this is a lot of work for something that's not going to go anywhere. So we're trying to be a little bit more strategic with how we did it this time, and like we're going to we're all getting a bit older. I just turned 30 recently, and I think that's pretty close to the median age of the band. And I think at that point it was like, if we're going to do it and sort of put in the effort, we probably wanted to get it right this time. Yeah.
So it sounds like you got a group of people that are, I guess, equally motivated to get stuff done. And
Yeah, we're very lucky like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's been one of those lucky bands where you don't have to like try and wrangle together. I mean, usually it's the drummer you're trying to wrangle together to get to rehearsals or at a show.
I got here before him.
Believe it or not, he takes
Let
it
it be known. Let the
seriously.
record
He's
say.
studying music, like he wants to get this done as well. It's
Yeah.
You can check our call sheets, check the log sheets. You were here first. Awesome.
Are you in any other projects at the moment?
No, I think the only person who is Rick. Can't even keep track of
It's a
how many
lot. I've
projects
noticed he's joining on stage a bunch.
I think he's officially in 2 others, which is Dreamworm and Draco Rex.
Yeah.
But he seems to pop up in other gigs and on other stages frequently. And we played a gig recently at the Old Bar, and someone came up to me and was like, "Oh, by the way, I didn't know your guitarist was the guitarist from," I can't even remember the name of it. He was like, "From this band." And I was like, I didn't know he was the guitarist for this band.
So officially in 2 other projects, but unofficially.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
How many wheat bix do you think Rick does?
All the week.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Whole box.
Rick's diet is actually, that's a very good topic that you've brought up. Just for context, at one rehearsal, I witnessed him eat. He had 1 can of Luxor flavored tuna, 1 can of sweet chili flavored tuna, 2 plums, and a a bottle of chocolate milk, which he
Oh.
consumed all simultaneously. So I'm glad you brought up Rick's diet.
Oh, that's
Wow.
rough. That's not a good flavor combination.
Yeah, it
No
was
room for
impressive.
carbs.
He was telling us the protein value in it, which to his credit, he showed us the macros, and it was
Nice.
Checks out.
checked
In
out.
that
but-
respect.
Holds up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strategic for all those unofficial projects.
Yeah.
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 Gives them the fuel, right? Yeah.
Sounds disgusting.
Yeah. It's just the chocolate milk. The chocolate milk on top
Milk.
of that.
Sugar
Yeah,
and
chocolate milk
chocolate
and lactose.
ties it all together.
Oak or Big M or I don't know.
Yeah.
Is
I
that
remember.
important? I don't know.
I think it might have had extra protein. As
Probably.
well.
Probably. Gonna make the most of it.
So you recorded. I think I remember this correctly. Was it at Rick's or did he have something to do with the recording process?
Yeah, so Rick has been doing a bunch of production for a while now. He calls it Big Vibe Creative Studios because he runs a little side quest called Big Vibe Creatives, which is they do a whole bunch of, I guess, media around music stuff. I think they're doing music videos and that sort of stuff as well. And yeah, it was really cool, like getting sort of that option to have complete control over what we were doing. I mean, it was, I guess it probably, the difference is when you work with someone else, you get the chance to have an extra set of ears outside of the project. Maybe that would have benefited. I don't know. We're still working that out. I'm pretty happy with how it came out, but yeah.
I would say it's very much a product of like where the band was at that stage, or even like, because I mean, it was originally just you and Rick, and it was a collection of riffs, and then it started to become songs, and then you tried to find people, and you couldn't find people, and you're like, let's record this,
Yeah.
and then people came.
It was also actually supposed to be an instrumental project originally.
Oh, really?
So it wasn't going to have vocals at all until I met Connor. But
Wow.
basically, realistically, I've said this to Pat from Treebeard a few times, but he ended up doing the band that I was meant to be doing with this. Like, I was like, I want to do like a Russian Circles-esque, like, instrumental post-rock thing. And then I've somehow ended up with this, like, screamed vocals, metal-y thing. And then, like, Pat's into his sort of, like, he's always wearing his Lamb of God shirt and stuff. And I'm like, we could have, like, possibly been in opposite bands at this point.
Wow, I didn't even know that actually, that it was
Yeah,
originally
yeah.
going to be instrumental.
It's interesting as well. Like, if you this is a little tidbit as well. If you go through the recording, like, so Iran probably has the most dense sort of, I guess, additional production elements. There's more sort of layers to that than some of the other tracks, and that's because before we that one we had actually finished recording before we even met Connor, so there wasn't the intention to have vocals initially, so we sort of had some few extra layers to sort of push the sort of, I guess, the narrative of the song without vocals. But then as we had vocals later on, we kind of pulled back a little bit to leave more room for Connor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad you pronounced it too. I wouldn't have pronounced it like that. So that's
Yeah.
cool. Very interesting.
When did this project start for you?
Now that's a question.
Yeah, I had a
so
feeling it would be.
it was actually, I guess it was a completely, as it said, like completely different thing to what it is now, but probably around 2015, 2016, I started writing a bunch of stuff which would later become this. And I originally, I was living in a share house with a few other musos, and the original plan was for it to be this almost like instrumental, sort of almost jazzy thing. There's original demos somewhere of like Isle of the Dead and New Path. They're under different names at that point, but with like another guitarist who was complete jazz guitarist, unbelievable guitarist as well. I'll plug his band. He's the guitarist in a funk band called Headphones Jones. They're top tier. If you're not, just listening to metal, get around them as well. And there was we had a jam with this other jazz drummer called Bryce Zelno, who's in a bunch of other really cool projects around Melbourne. I think he goes under the name Odyssey Zelno now. But yeah, it's this completely different thing. It's like improvised guitar leads, jazzy stuff over like almost like jazz drumming, but with the same riffs and the same song structure. And it sounds completely different to where it is now.
Wow.
And it sort of sat around that as a project for a while, but then kind of just didn't go anywhere with it and sort of, I guess, put it out of mind for a little bit. And then ran into Rick busking a couple of years after that. And was, asked him whether he was in any bands, and I think at the time he was in a couple still, but hassled him for long enough, and then we met up and sort of started, I guess, like sort of structuring out the rest of the songs around it. So like the structures of the songs are still pretty much exactly as they were back then. Like what I play hasn't really changed at all from what those original demos and sort of improvised recordings were to where they are today. Rick forced me to shorten a few of the sections because like Rick's very much like a 4 repeat attention span. If it goes longer than that, he's like, I need a new riff. And I'm like, being the post-rock background, I'm like, I want to do like the 14-minute extended mid-section. So we sort of like came to a mid-ground through that.
It's a good balance there. Like, make sure we cater to all sides of neurodivergence.
There's a bit of
Don't
that
get
in the
stuck,
band,
stuck in one camp.
Inclusivity.
Yeah.
It's good you touched on that and how much it's changed, and you've had people join at different times, put their influences in, because it is kind of hard to pinpoint single influences for the project, for the band rather. Can you name anything like that you've maybe added to it, or you've noticed that other people have added to the music that you've written?
I think Stu here adds a real sensibility to stuff. Stu's kind of like he's almost like, you're like the dad of the band. You kind of like pull us in when we do dumb shit, and you're like, that's just not it. Like, let's fix
Really?
that.
Okay.
Or, yeah. You like add a very kind of like professional edge to things, I think.
There you go.
Yeah. I think a big one though was Connor coming in, and it really, I think, found what it was there. And I let you plug Gabe because you brought him into the mix.
Yeah, well, Gabe's like the bassist we didn't know we needed, for sure. Like, I mean, I've been in other bands with Gabe in the past for ages, but he was living in Queensland. He moved back down. That would have been early last year.
You didn't give him the option, did you? You kind of told him.
I was like, we'd been through 2 bassists, and our current bassist had just told us that he couldn't keep it up because he had too many projects. His name was Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a pretty sick band too at the moment.
Yeah, Manic Temple.
Yep.
Oh,
if
cool.
you like
Get around
Aussie
them.
prog with like that kind of early 2000s,
Cog vibe.
yeah, cog
nice.
carnival,
Yeah.
alt metal kind of thing. Very, very tasty. So he'd given us notice because he had too many projects, and my mate Gabe had just moved back down, and I was like, "You're in the band." No, but only you and I know this at the moment.
It was great as well because you kind of just told me Gabe was in the band as well, and I was like, okay. I'm like, I'll trust you.
So refreshing to hear, like, a band, like, it's very clear from talking to you guys, like, how much you do trust each other and give each other freedom to do stuff, It's cool. It's good.
Feels like it'd be impossible otherwise, honestly.
Yeah.
I also remember I roped Gabe into doing merch for our first show, and I didn't tell him either.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
He's like, "What do you mean I'm doing merch?" And rocked up to the show.
You got a method. It's like getting people, before they agree to it.
To be fair,
Maybe they're too awkward.
he does.
too.
He does merch now, so I think you just kind of like thrust that upon him as a long-term business option. Like,
It
he didn't
works.
ever get a say in that.
We'll have to say hello to him at the merch desk, I guess.
Is anyone ever going to tell him that he doesn't have to do it?
No, he does.
No.
He does have to do. The rest of us are incapable of that sort of stuff. Like,
So you
and
found the right person for the
Gabe,
job.
if you're listening, you do a great job, and we're very thankful for that. And please,
We're very
stay at the
proud of
merch
you.
desk.
We're all going to come and say hello at the merch
I
table.
love it. This is great.
Get to know your merch dealer. We've always said that.
Oh, man.
So when it comes to assigning people with roles, how is the writing process for some of these tracks? Because there is a bit of genre shifting rather throughout the album.
Yeah. I guess, yeah. So again, it kind of like started with that sort of thing that I had with those riffs, and then I guess everyone has their own sort of flavors genre-wise that they're bringing in. So I think you're probably sitting more in the prog sphere.
Yeah, I'm definitely
Yeah,
a
I
prog
think
head. But
Gabe is
there's a-
also in the prog sphere, but he's also kind of in the like Queens of the Stone Age vibe as well. Rick, as I think we were talking off camera before, is our resident tech death shred sweet
yeah,
picking.
Shred Master.
If you like any of the moments in the album where it's just like I think in like Isle of the Dead, and you've got like the sweet picking in the middle, like that's the Rick flavor.
You can
That's
tell.
like
Yeah.
Yeah, he regularly quotes Yingwei as well.
yeah, more is more. And then I think
How can less be more? More is more.
yeah, I think Connor and I are probably similar in what we listen to. It's probably a little bit more of the sort of like modern alty sort of metal bands like Conjurer and White Ward, sort of like
You're definitely
niche.
the post head though.
yeah.
You're the post head, and Connor's like the
Yeah,
extreme metal,
Yeah, like
European,
I think
occult.
my favorite
Motorhead.
album of all time is probably Departure Songs by We Lost the Sea. So like that is probably like, and I was listening to that like crazy when I was writing this stuff, and
Nice.
so that sort of creeps in at times, but then gets pulled back into the riff land by the others, I think.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah,
can't let him indulge too much.
yeah, yeah. If it were up to me, every song on this album would have been a minimum of 18 minutes.
Oh my
And,
God.
Like, yeah, there would have been like 4-minute like spoken word samples before any song begun, and yeah.
I think that's a more is more thing. Like I do like a long song.
Your
So
own flavour.
Yeah.
Of more is more.
that's
the
good.
definition of more is more.
That's it. So you've been playing for a little bit too with this band. Can you tell us any cool things that's happened? I guess on tour, at any shows, anything?
Yeah, I guess the first show was probably the biggest surprise of anything. We kind of like announced we were launching the project, had very little stuff on social media, and we had no music out. And realistically, there was no reason for anyone to know who we were. But somehow we sold out Gasso upstairs for, I mean, it's not a huge room, but it was still like, I remember it sold out like a week before the gig, and we were kind of sitting in the rehearsal room, like looking at each other, going, like, "Who bought these tickets?" Like, do you
Yeah,
know?
it's like,
It's like,
I
are these
invited
your
5
friends?
people.
Like, I'm like, who are these people? And it
5
was pretty
times
wild.
5 does not equal 80.
It was also really cool as well. Like that gig we played, and Treebeard were on board for that.
Yeah.
There were a couple of bands, but Treebeard we've kind of done a lot of stuff with since then, and it was really cool to sort of like start out having them on board as well, and they're going to now play with us at the album launch as
Yeah.
well. So it's kind of serendipitous a little bit. Yeah.
It's really cool.
Definitely.
Hey, what's your highlights?
I mean, it's all a blast, but it's. I'm very methodical when we perform. It's
I would
like,
say you're always like on stage as well, moments before you're like quite stressed. I think.
yeah. Well, I'm always, I'm like trying to get everything set up just right, and there's all the
Yeah.
little bits, and
You haven't enjoyed any of it yet.
no, I enjoy it, but
It's a chore though.
it's like I don't have mental space to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Got to focus on the task at hand.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah. He shouts at us backstage if we don't get it just right.
Not my tempo.
So you've mentioned a lot of other bands that
Mhm.
you have played with or that you know friends in. What are some of your favourite Melbourne bands?
I'll let you go first. I think
Oh.
you're wearing the shirt with one of them.
Oh yeah, I saw these guys, Beggar, and really enjoyed them. It's like soul crushing funeral doom, just like very hyper focused on specifically that experience. But I'm gonna be a bit heretical, and I'm gonna bring up a Kiwi band called
Oh.
Spook the Horses.
Ah, yes.
They opened for the Ocean when they came down here in the winter, and they were amazing. They were like so artistic and creative and intense.
Yeah, I think Dave mentioned them last time we chatted. Yeah, it was good. It was a good show. How about yourself?
At the moment, I guess you can probably call them Melbourne now. I'm really enjoying what they've released from Black Aleph. Lachlan has been doing really cool stuff for a long time. Like I was a big fan of his old band Hashashin. I think they're still together. I think they're just not, because Lachlan's moved to Melbourne, they're not doing as much stuff now. So I think that's where his focus has gone. But they're awesome. I'm also absolutely obsessed with Aglo at the moment. I think a few of you saw them on Friday. I was
We were
wishing I
just
was at that
talking
show,
about them
but
before.
yeah, they're fucking killer. First time I saw them was great. Like, yeah, I go to them whenever they play. There's probably a few others. I think Goat Shaman are awesome as well. They're doing something I've not really seen anyone else do. It's like sludge out of the like swampiest depths of
Nice.
possible thing. But they do this really cool thing where they've sort of got this complete control of tempo, and they're sort of coming in and out of riffs at different tempos in a like it sounds like it shouldn't be a thing, but they're so in control of it, and it just creates these like ridiculous grooves. But they're awesome.
They're a really impressive band to watch live because
Yeah.
it seems so uncontrollably sludgy, but so controlled and technical at the same time,
Yeah.
which doesn't make sense.
They're so together.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Connor and I actually discovered both them and Aglo at the same gig. We went to the Assure album launch last year. I think it was last year. Let's go with last year.
The years confused me.
It was like them, Aglo, Goat Shaman, and Prokop, which is also another mates of you guys,
They're really cool too.
But that was like, it was an unbelievable lineup. I think that was one of the best local shows I've been to
Awesome.
in years. Probably since the days of Horse Hunter, which I'm still just hoping someone will convince them to get back together because I miss them every day.
That's a question that we ask in this. Is it a tier?
I'm upset they're not together as
Yeah.
well.
They put out like
It's gonna be okay.
the best
Chris.
two doom albums of all time and then disappeared. Like,
Damn.
bring them back.
It's rough.
This will be the second episode that we say how much we miss them. So let's hope that this is what they need to get back together.
Give them the momentum. Yeah.
Build a campaign.
Tag them in the posts.
I met Dan, the guitarist, at my friend's like engagement party a while back, and I was, met him as a peer
Yeah.
of a friend of ours, not as a fan, and I was just pretending not to fanboy the whole time I was chatting to him. But yeah, I'm like in a suit, and I'm like, oh, you in a band too? Oh, that's cool. What's your band? Oh,
Oh, yeah.
awesome. Oh, I've heard of you guys. They were really cool.
Amazing.
I'm sure you played it very cool. We always think we do in those situations.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like we ask a lot, like bands that, especially local bands you wish were still around. Do you have one for yourself?
I mean, a local one. I don't know. I feel like these days it's not even bands aren't like together or not together. It's like a spectrum. You know what I mean? And so I guess I'd just say that I'd really like for Carnival to put out some more music.
Wouldn't say no to that.
That's a stab.
I guess it is.
How long's it been now? Actually, that's
They
It's
released
been
that
over 10
single.
years.
They did
Yeah.
release that single. That was
Yeah, but
A while
I saw
ago
an
now.
interview with them recently, and I don't know if they're any closer to releasing anything.
yeah.
all right.
Seems
It's
like
definitely-
it's a slow process.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a bit like waiting for System of a Down to do another album.
How long have we been waiting for that?
I think we can stop waiting. I don't think
Yeah,
that's
it's
happening.
done. It's past. Local venues. Are there any venues that you like playing at or being a punter at? Anything you?
As a punter, I think my favorite one is the Evelyn.
Nice.
Having played at so far, I'm trying to think. Really enjoyed Catfish. I thought the sound there was really cool and the vibe was really good. That was a really nice room. I don't know, what about you?
Yeah, Catfish for the sound and like the room, definitely, because it's like not too narrow but not too wide. And I mean, I like the Gasso. It's a good old classic.
That's true. Yeah, Gasso downstairs was awesome. I mean, it's a really open space as well, so I think it's like not
the balcony
always
as
the
well, it's
best.
like- it's so unique.
sound. Yeah, we were pretty lucky. We had Amish on sound that night,
Yeah.
and he made that
He
sound
did kill it.
awesome.
The album artwork looks pretty colourful, but also a bit desolate. Can you tell us about the imagery on the album?
Yeah, I think I actually realized that this might have come up later, so I tried to hold back on one of my earlier answers
Nice.
instead of prompting this. But there's so the artwork is based off, well, it's not based off, it is a photo my friend Max Rue took. check him out. He does unbelievable photography. He does a lot of work around festivals and capturing really cool sort of light-based or sort of, yeah, he's awesome work. Like, definitely check him out. But it was something we sort of like had this theme of sort of place and location being tied throughout the album. Probably, again, like bringing the title back to the first track, Blood, Salt and Ash, which is like loosely based in desert surroundings. So we sort of tried to lean into that a little bit there. And it's sort of, yeah, we really wanted it to be something that was also telling of Australia, the landscape of Australia, and sort of the place that the record was created in. So it's actually, I mean, we didn't create the album in South Australia, but the shot is taken in South Australia. And I think it kind of captures some of the vastness of the sort of the space that we're in, and sort of, I guess, that sort of almost emptiness that there is within Australia for a lot of space. It's cool though, like for a picture that realistically doesn't have a lot going on, I still find it very visually striking. Yeah.
It's very well composed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Definitely, like, yeah, catches a lot of the elements on the album of like being on the frontier and kind of nihilism and
I guess,
like a lack of agency and stuff.
I guess as well, like if you look at, we should have bought a physical copy of the record here. The front and back are kind of like tie together, and on the back it's still a desert scape and it's the same composition, but it's like a cemetery in a desert, and it's just a few little graves sitting there. And I guess the sort of way that like I've interpreted that is like you're at this sort of space and trying to find meaning or find something in this space in time, and you know, by the end of it, the only thing that's sort of guaranteed at the end is death, and that's so that's my interpretation
bit
of it.
existential.
Yeah,
definitely.
Which probably that also ties into probably the last song, Talons, which is Connor's borrowed from a bit of Sartre's existentialist philosophy in the lyrics there, and it's
Wow, it's been really good to sort of unpack, you know, your perspective on the album, because it is, you know, it's very interesting. There's a lot going on. It's really great listen, and hearing how much planning and thought and time has gone into it. It's really cool. So well done, guys. Congrats.
Thank you.
It's really cool. So you got the gig on the 18th at the Workman's.
Workers Club.
Oh yeah, Workman's might be someplace in Dublin that I'm thinking of.
Don't go there.
Don't go
We're
there.
not playing in Dublin.
I might be missing the
I
mark
also
a tad.
saw there's potentially a Workers Club in Dandenong on maps.
Ah.
Don't go there either. That's
Alright.
not where the gig is. We're in Fitzroy Workers
Yeah.
Club.
Do you happen to know the GPS coordinates? Because we'll put them on screen. For
That would be good. We can get that in the description of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
The Workers Club,
The Workers. I'll let you say it.
Fitzroy,
Yep,
Gertrude Street, not Dandenong,
nice.
Bingo.
Or Dublin.
or
Or
Dublin.
Dublin.
Yep.
Follow these coordinates.
And the lineup is killer. Like we sort of got pretty much our favourite bands in Melbourne agreeing to play with us. So we've got Cull, Treebeard, and Black Aleph.
Amazing.
I've always wanted to see Cull, but they haven't been doing a heap of gigs lately. So we thought, if they're not going to do one for us that I can buy tickets to, like, let's make
bring
them play with us so I can watch them. And
Was this
so-
a new thing? Did you just like, oh, by the way, you're playing with
so
us?
I'm actually as excited. Like, I've seen Treebeard and Black Aleph before, and
Yeah.
they're both phenomenal bands. Really unique in their own right, but I'm just as excited as everyone else to see Cull, because this will be my first time.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Very exciting.
thank you so much for coming and talking to us today. It's been really cool.
We're looking
course.
forward to seeing the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I
Congrats.
hope you're all there.
Yeah.
Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for chatting with us.
Thank you.
Nice.